Marjorie Taylor Greene in action, calling for the expulsion of one LaMonica McIver. LaMonica McIver, do you remember her? She was the one that was out there protesting the Delancey Immigration Center in New Jersey just last Friday, about a week ago. And she was, all worked up saying this is outrageous because it turned out Alina Habba had the Newark mayor arrested for trespassing. They kept saying to these representatives and to the protesters and to the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, hey, back off, stop what you're doing. And they wouldn't stop, and they kept trying to proceed forward. And so eventually they paid the price. The Newark mayor got arrested, and poor LaMonica just came apart at the seams. Watch.
How this administration is trying to restrict Congress from doing their bare duties and the responsibilities that the people have elected us to do. What we just witnessed was just disgusting. I am very upset. I am very angry, and I am very hurt that they could be able to do something like that to us. These are people who are supposed to be officers, who are supposed to protect us, and they have done none of that. If they can treat 3 members of Congress like that, just imagine how they can treat people on the street each and every day, both undocumented and people who are citizens here in this country. It makes absolutely no sense to arrest the mayor of the largest city of this state who did nothing wrong. He went inside of the gate and told them that he was waiting for us to come out because we were conducting an oversight visit. They asked him to leave. He left out of the gate. Instead of the ICE officials that were here, who were supposed to be here to lead us on a tour, they then came out to have a huddle to talk about how the...
So that's not exactly how it went down, according to some of the body cam footage that just got released. Okay, she wants you to think it was all perfectly normal. By the way, they could have asked ICE for a scheduled tour. They actually didn't do that. So that in and of itself is a flaw in her argument, but I mean, I'm looking at the same footage you guys are looking at, and LaMonica got a little testy. We're looking at protest video outside the Delancey detention center there in New Jersey. And LaMonica, you see her, she's the lady in red, and she's getting pretty amped up, pretty upset. Again, you can see things are getting rather difficult. She's pushing herself up against an ICE agent. As we understand it, there was also a female ICE agent that got body slammed. Still waiting to see some of that footage, although this may be some of the body slamming. I don't know how one would interpret this, but there was concern that you're going after a female ICE agent. Menendez was there as well. Don't forget, Menendez. Okay, so bad scene, right? I think we can agree, kind of a bad scene. And this is why you now have DHS investigating exactly how it all went down. Take a look at what MTG is saying here. So she tweeted this one out. She said, LaMonica McIver should be expelled from Congress. Did we misspell McIver, or did MTG? Let's see, on our lower third. McIver. Okay, so that was probably our fault. Anyway, so LaMonica McIver should be expelled from Congress, she said. She couldn't even look up as they were showing the footage, apparently, during the hearing. And she must have gotten exhausted, right? She didn't have any energy to look up at the screen. This is one of the photos that MTG posted as well. You can see, yeah, LaMonica should be expelled from Congress, she writes, because you can see LaMonica. I just love saying that. LaMonica, LaMonica. You can't go by Monica. It's got to be LaMonica. The Monica. Anyway, she's like, listen, this woman needs to be out. And you know what? I have a feeling DHS is going to agree with this. Tricia McLaughlin announcing that they are conducting this investigation. She is the spokesperson for Kristi Noem and everyone there at DHS.
This was a cheap political stunt by the Democrats and by these protesters. Who do they want to get out of this facility? Is it the MS-13 gang members? Again, this is a cheap political stunt for their 15 minutes of fame. We're not having it. They put law enforcement officers at risk. They put our staff in the facility at risk and put the detainees at risk. You saw that they didn't even let an ambulance through. This is not something that this administration is going to put up with. And that's part of the reason that this mayor was arrested. You can't just storm a detention facility and assault law enforcement officers with impunity. We should let viewers know there will likely be more arrests coming. We actually have body camera footage of some of these members of Congress assaulting our ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer. So we will be showing that to viewers very shortly.
You say a video of members of Congress body slamming ICE
That's correct.
officials?
That's correct, sir. It's disgusting.
Okay, and so if you have that video, are you suggesting that members of Congress will be arrested who were there yesterday?
This is an ongoing investigation, and that is definitely on the table.
Who has the video?
ICE does, and we will be releasing that very shortly.
Okay. Let's talk about...
If AOC goes down there and pulls the same kind of stunt that we've seen on Friday and today, are you going to arrest her as well?
If she trespasses and if she assaults law enforcement officers, as we saw earlier, I think that that's certainly on the table.
Okay, so you see where this is heading. It's not just LaMonica anymore. It's also AOC. AOC, because she got a little bit crazy this week, decided to go after Tom Homan and DHS, etc. Because, oh my gosh, you better not touch LaMonica. LaMonica, she's like treasured, protected territory, okay? AOC's like, don't go after my peeps. And so when she said that, it sparked a whole other conversation about whether or not one would arrest AOC in the event of something like what you saw in Newark, New Jersey. And it's kind of interesting because it's happening just as Comey, for example, is making his threats. And again, I think you got to get back to the reality that nobody's above the law here. AOC is not above the law. LaMonica is not above the law. And certainly James Comey is not above the law. Here is AOC, if you haven't seen it.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
I actually think you're going to have a problem, AOC, and LaMonica is going to have a problem. And all the people that somehow think that they can fly in the face of the federal law are going to have a problem. Tom Homan, some of you may have seen this already because it's one of my favorite sound bites. He came out and responded to this, and he's basically like, listen, you weren't even born, and I'd worked in the administration this long. You don't have a clue, you little bartender. He didn't say that. My words, not his. He was a little more respectful, but not that much. Watch.
First of all, you can't intimidate me. Come on, give me a break. You know, I was enforcing him. I was wearing a green uniform, Border Patrol agent, for 5 years before she was even born. I had more than 3 decades enforcing immigration law before she became a member of Congress. I worked for 6 presidents. I've seen policies. I've seen hundreds of policies. Some worked, some didn't. But you can't deny the success of the Trump administration when it comes to border security. Again, the most secure border in the history of this nation. And I said from day one, and she knows this, you can not support ICE. Shame on you. You can support sanctuary cities. Shame on you. But you can't cross the line. You can't knowingly impede ICE law enforcement officers. That is a felony. You can't harbor and conceal, knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. That is a felony. And you certainly can't commit criminal trespass. You know, and as far as New York, her district, this administration has done more to protect her district than she has. The number of criminal aliens we took off the streets of New York made her community much safer. She ought to be thanking the members of this administration, the men and women of ICE, who protect this country and make her community safer. So, you know, it's politics over public safety. It's just ridiculous. She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump, because we're doing a lot to protect her community.
You know, it's really interesting. Did you see some of the footage that came out from the hearing there with Kristi Noem? And you had Dan Goldman, the representative from New York, going after her because of course, all of the migrant detentions and deportations, et cetera. And Kristi kept saying, you know, Representative Goldman, if only you cared about your constituents as much as you cared about all the illegal criminals, well, heck, that would be something. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? But again, I get back to jurisdiction here. You know what? The feds have jurisdiction all day long on this. So it's going to be a sad end for the Democrats that are choosing this side of things. You saw Donald Trump, for example, just saying yesterday, it's like they have TDS on steroids. I played you that soundbite from the plane there going over to Saudi Arabia with Sean Hannity. And he's like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's good for us, right? It's good for the Republicans. I almost hate to say this to them, but you guys are always on the wrong side of things. Getting back to that 80-20 thing, 80% of the country is here and you're in the 20% minority over there. Or in some cases, like when it comes to naturally born males playing against naturally born females in high school and college sports, like that's one that's not even 80-20 anymore. At that point, the ship has sailed and you guys are just on the wrong side of things. And he's like, I hate to say this because we don't even want them to get with the program because we may have a harder time at winning. But the reality is he's with America. America's elected him for a reason. And part of that, main part of that, was immigration. I mean, that was a big part of it. Okay, so here's another goodie for you. Remember this one? 2019 Tom Homan versus AOC, and he just took her down. He took her down, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the new border czar of the United States of America, and he, Tom Homan, means business.
Through this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his
Mr. Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
I love that one. I really do. You know, when he was first named Border Czar, I played that, I think, on the shorts feed, probably on the show as well, because I was like, listen, you guys need to know, like, this is a team that means business, and they're not messing around, and they're really, really serious about what they're going to do. And he's been committed to this for a long time. And by the way, like, this is not anything new. Barack Obama wanted this. Clinton wanted this. Both Hillary and Bill. I mean, it's just because. It's just because it's Donald Trump and they all have TDS that suddenly this is a problem now. Well, I'll tell you, you know what? You got a whole bunch of stuff that's actually on the side of the administration. AOC, very well. could find herself under arrest if she becomes one of these protest members a la LaMonica McIver, right? Or Menendez, or the guy who's the Newark mayor. Because if you break the law, you break the law. But as far as this whole thing goes, I mean, listen, the supremacy clause trumps, no pun intended, these states all day long in the Constitution. And this came up in 2012 in Arizona. And guess what they decided? Okay, you states can have all the sanctuary city stuff you want going on, but ultimately the federal government has jurisdiction over this. It's pretty plain and simple. So, you know, I realize she's not that bright. I realize she's young and inexperienced and, you know, really shouldn't be a member of Congress. But when this goes to the Supreme Court, because I suspect it will, the Supreme Court's going to be on the side of the Trump administration. Pretty darn clear. This is not a hard one. All right? You got the Supremacy Clause. You got the Commerce Clause. You got the naturalization that the federal government is responsible for. You got borders that the federal government is responsible for. This is not something that we need to think about twice. Unless, of course, you're part of the left insanity team that for some reason wants to destroy the country in the name of what? Getting themselves more power? That's probably what it is. I mean, think about it. The more power they accumulate for government and thus themselves, the less power the people have. And then you can just dish out little, you know, let them eat cake type of doodads to them. You keep them down on the farm. And then the government has all the say. Look, it's been tried before. To all the socialists and communists out there, it's been tried before. Let me remind you, it never works. Capitalism. It may not be perfect, but it is the best system we have, lifting more people out of poverty than any other system you could find out there. So AOC, I'm sorry, you're wrong.